as minority whip. The two PDP lawmakers were picked to fill the two principal offices in the minority camp following the voiding of the elections by the Court of Appeal. There was commotion in the upper chamber shortly after the Senate President Godswill Akpabio made the two announcements as Labour Party senators demanded for the minority whip, which was previously occupied by one of their own. Labour Party senators Okechukwu Eze and Tony Nwoye described the ceding of all the minority leadership positions to the PDP as enslavement of the Labour Party lawmakers.
Are we your slaves? The way you elected was the way you were elected. Are we your slaves? How else you can suspend me here? Are we your slaves? Every time you keep on picking leadership for us. We are not your slaves. Whether you like it or not, the way you elected was the way we elected. We are not your slaves.
The aggrieved Labour Party senators were eventually pacified after Akpabio explained that the new minority leader and minority whip were endorsed by a majority of opposition senators across party lines.
To see somebody who has majority, and what he actually needs will be like maybe 24 or 25 senators, and he has up to 30. And then I will not announce it. So it doesn't matter your personal reservations. I just want to plead with my colleagues to understand that my job here is not to take individual opinions.
Meanwhile, the Senate has urged the federal government to immortalize the designer of national flag, the late Pa Taiwo Akinwumi, who passed on August 29, 2023. This followed a motion moved by Senator Sarafaddin Abiodun, representing Oyo South. Abiodun also called for a state burial for Pa Akinwumi for his services to the nation.
Colleagues, I'm grateful. This is the motion brought for state burial and immortalization of late Taiwo Akinwumi, OFR, popularly called Mr. Flag Designer of the Nigeria flag. Immortalizing him, therefore, and granting him a state burial is a demonstration of the respect and honor that Nigeria accords our heroes, living or late.
Mourn the loss of Mr. Taiwo Akinwumi and express the Senate's condolences to his family and loved ones. The Senate recognizes his exceptional and patriotic service to our country through his design of the Nigerian national flag. Those who are in support of prayer to say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The Senate has asked its committees on judiciary, human rights and legal matters to relate with the Attorney General of the Federation to revise the laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004. The Senate also directed its committee to fast-track the process as it stressed that the law is an alphabetical compilation operating in Nigeria. The sponsor of the motion, Senator Kakalawa, had in a lead debate argued that the compilation was carried out under the authority of the Attorney General, subject to the approval of the National Assembly through an act. He maintained that the laws comprised 16 volumes, with each volume made up of several statutes organized in alphabetical order. Senator Lawal also argued that the laws of the Federation have not been revised in the last 19 years, and as such, all the laws enacted from 2003 to date remained excluded from the compilation.
Further worried that the continued non-revision of the laws of Federation of Nigeria 2004 has not only left numerous statutes out of the compilation, but also retained many repeal statutes with the attendant confusions and other negative impacts. Concerned that the non-compilation of the several federal statutes leads to dearth of knowledge of many existing laws on the part of Nigerians, especially students, lecturers, researchers, lawyers, legislators and judges, amongst others.
The session, which was presided over by Senate President Akpabio, resolved to give such further directives as deemed expedient and appropriate in the circumstances.
And sometimes even the subtitles are wrong. And all sorts of people are just printing these things. Even most of the amendments that have been initiated in the Senate, passed and signed into Acts of Parliament by Mr. President are not reflected in some of the things that they are selling on the road. So it will be good for us to revisit and put these things together.
The Senate has passed the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper for 2024 to 2026. They are a set of assumptions to be used in preparing the country's budget over the next 3 years. The upper chamber approved the document with a borrowing plan of 7.8 trillion naira for 2024, 9 trillion naira deficit, and federal government total expenditure of 26 trillion naira. The Senate also approved the benchmark oil price of $73.76 and $69.90 per barrel for 2024, 2025, and 2026, respectively. The Senate, however, resolved that all items locally produced should be banned from importations. These approvals were sequel to the consideration and adoption of the recommendations in the report of the 2024 to 2026 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper at Wednesday plenary. The report was presented by Senator Sonny Musa and considered by the Committee on Supply with Godswill Akpabio as chairman and adopted in plenary. The Joint Committee, chaired by Senator Sonny, observed that a significant number of federal government revenue-generating agencies engaged in arbitrary, frivolous, and extra-budgetary spendings. The committee therefore recommended a review of the laws of all revenue-generating agencies.
The macroeconomic projection of the medium-term fiscal framework and the major key parameters, as well as other macroeconomic projections driving the proposed 2024 to 2026 medium-term macroeconomic.
Also adopted was a resolution mandating the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited to reduce its production and operational costs in order to increase available government revenue.
On this very simple recommendation, all we want is how do we make NNPC to reduce its production cost, except by...
After the debate that lasted for about 5 hours, President of the Senate, Akpabio, announced the approval of special intervention recurrent of 200 billion naira, special intervention capital of 7 billion naira, and an exchange rate of 700 naira to a US dollar.
No, for 2026 and 73.76 for 2025 be approved respectively. Those in support of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Other recommendations are that the National Assembly should begin the process of amending the Fiscal Responsibility Act to strengthen the agency's capacity to enforce fiscal responsibility and impose sanctions on errant corporations. In another development, the Senate has passed for second reading a bill to give legal backing to the establishment of Bitumen Development Commission in Nigeria. Senator